Sorry about that. We have some new software, and so we're trying to work out a couple of issues. But if everyone could stand and join me. Do we have someone tonight for the flag salute? All right. I'd just like to bring them forward.
I believe we have students from Joe Mitchell K-8, Almost International Baccalaureate School.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's so nice when we can start our meeting with kids and remind us what we're all here for. And with that, this is a regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, where our primary focus is on the education of students of the school district. During this meeting, members of the public will have the opportunity to share information, voice their ideas and concerns regarding matters within the jurisdiction of this public agency. During the board's discussion of each item, there will be a time for you to have the opportunity to speak on that item. If the topic you want to address is not on the agenda, although it is not mandatory, we encourage you to fill out a tan speaker card and turn it in over here. And you will be called to speak on that topic during communications from the public. If you wish to address a topic that is on the agenda, I don't have one, but we have similar cards in blue. And we again encourage you to fill out and turn in a blue speaker card, and I will call your name at that time. You're all looking bright and chipper. That's good. I'm surprised that we have so many people here, because clearly not Giants fan home watching the game. Or taping. I hear some dissenting sounds from the back. But it's good that you're bright and eager, because our meetings are televised on cable channel 28 on Wednesdays and at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. for those who don't want to watch cartoons. So we're really glad that you all came out tonight. And we didn't have any items voted on in closed session. And do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we do actually have one change to the agenda, a slight change under the employment for coaches. So Mike McCafferty was listed as a football varsity head coach, and he actually did not get a promotion. He's the assistant coach.
Okay. So do we have an amendment, or we're just going to do that at the time?
I think we're making it at the table, but it'll be changed in the record for the minutes.
Very good. Thank you for that. And that brings us to our favorite item of the evening besides Flag Salute with Kids, which is recognitions.
So thank you. I would love to call up our principal of Mitchell K-8, and that's Dr. Laura Limbo, and she is going to do the honors of a very important recognition of an incredibly hardworking and committed staff member.
Welcome.
Thank you. It is truly, honestly, a pleasure to recognize staff who go over and above, and Amy Husselt is described in that way. As the IB coordinator for both our primary years program and our middle years program, Amy has been a critical part of our success towards IB candidacy and authorization. She knows the IB program so well that when our IB consultants came to visit us in September, they suggested that she consider joining their team of IB trainers.
We're going to have to talk to him about that.
That's what I said. I told her not yet. So her job is never ending. She meets weekly with teachers for the continuous work on improving our IB unit planners. She's taken the lead in organizing 4 different committees, all at the same time, that culminated into 4 required documents by IB. One for academic honesty, one that describes our language policy, our assessment policy, and including all students, including those with special needs. She's organized multicultural events, parent information meetings, and opportunities for our students to take action through participation in international organizations such as the Heifer Project, UNICEF, and UN Day. This is just a fraction of the countless hours that she puts in. What I love about Amy is that she sees the opportunities in every difficulty rather than seeing the difficulty in every opportunity. She's been a trailblazer, making a path for our staff to follow. She asks questions that inspire us all to reach higher, to dream bigger, and to achieve greater, to create an IB World School that our entire school community can be proud of. And she does all of this without any fanfare or recognition. She cares deeply about the education of our students and is willing to do whatever it takes to get that job done. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Amy Hansalt and thank her for all of her dedication and hard work. I don't think we'd be here today without her. Amy? Thank you. We'll see.
For that validation meeting in the spring.
And for our next recognition, I would like to invite Mr. Moni Knopp, who's not only a longtime Livermore resident and a former Livermore police officer, he also is the chair or head of the Moni Knopp Foundation. So I will start with some words about Moni, and many of you already know him, but the most recent contributions have made an incredible impact on our students and community, and I know that he even has more planned and in store, but we wanted to take this time to recognize him for his many contributions. First of all, he serves on the Rotary Mini Grant Committee. He's also adopted the Mitchell Elementary School, recognizing teachers monthly for their efforts with the IB program that you'll hear more about later. And he's established the Moni Knopp Foundation. And this foundation supports youth enrichment in arts, athletics, and most importantly, what I've seen most recently is in leadership. He has surrounded himself, and he himself is an incredible leader in our community and a wonderful role model and example. He has come through many hardships and challenges in his life, and so that's a very inspirational message for our students and even our staff, because he shows that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. So with that key emphasis on leadership, last year the foundation held a community event in April, Leadership Awareness Day at Christensen Middle School. Assistant Superintendent Alba and I had a chance to attend. I think Trustee and Clerk Rogie also did, and your daughter participated. But so did many other students, many students who didn't even know that they could be leaders. They thought that a leader was somebody who had to be designated or popular or have some preordained message that people would choose them. And instead, he really captured the essence that anybody can lead and anyone can serve. And we know that it was very well received, so much that all the other schools now want to have a very similar event. So he has his work cut out for him. We want to thank Moni for his active community involvement, for making schools and youth a top priority, and his zeal and commitment know no bounds. I know he has sent letters to Oprah Winfrey and famous artists in Hollywood and even some of our country artists. He will stop nowhere to get support for our students. So he makes it a top priority. We're all looking forward to the expansion of the foundation and his future projects. And I even want to have him use this opportunity to maybe share a little more about some of those projects in more detail, because it's in its early conception and he's already made an incredible impact, and we're so excited about what's in store. So let's give a big round of applause for Mono, and then we'll hear from him.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the recognition. We're still at such an infancy stage, but so much appreciate the recognition, and I'm hoping that this will give us an opportunity as a platform as well to talk about this program and grow it even further. You know, all this work that we're actually doing is actually my board of directors and my assistants and my staff and our interns is actually doing a lot of heavy lifting to get to us to where we are. But for those of you not familiar with our foundation, Moline Knopp Foundation is a what we would like to become is actually become an institute for youth leadership. I could see us one day having our own campus here where we have leadership forum, leadership workshops, and I could see our students graduating from our school, our academy, and you know, going on to lead and do many amazing things. We'd like to see volunteer opportunities. We'd like to see job opportunities after high school, and more importantly, learning the basic skills such as interview skills, conflict resolution, networking skills, and among many, many other things that we'd like to be part of this academy. But just so you know, we provide scholarship money for arts, athletic, and leadership up to $500, but the students have to volunteer their time first in order to get the money. The second thing that we provide is that we provide a 5-hour leadership awareness training for middle and high school students. And then the third thing we're developing right now is the Leadership Academy. We're looking at right now possibly a 1-week Leadership Academy. It's still in infancy stage. We're developing with our Director of Development, our interns, and our Leadership Academy accordingly right now. But we're hoping to have something of a 1-week Leadership Academy where you learn about those skills that I just mentioned. And we're hoping that in 2016, we'll have the Leadership Academy up and running for the high school program. Now, this is very progressive, but this is the goal that we set. And I got you know, great, amazing people. One of my board of directors is here, Steve Goodman, and one of our advisory board members, the superintendent, as well. So, but anyhow, on a personal note, I just want to thank each and every one of you for the recognition and allowing me to speak about our foundation. We're hoping to be part of this community a lot longer than I shall live, and I look forward to all your support. I truly do. I could see huge things for us, and I think there's no better beginning than to start with our middle school and our high school with the leadership program. Thank you so much.
Now's the time for our student board member reports. Colin, would you like to go first? Or, oh, yeah, oh, sorry, we're going to do a photo. Okay, now we're going to do student board member reports. And Colin, do you want to go first?
All right, thank you, Madam President, and good evening, everyone. Granada counselors are in the process of attending workshops put on by UC and CSU spokespeople to inform our counselors of updated admissions requirements. Last Thursday, International Baccalaureate consultant Orist Melnick from Alberta, Canada, visited and spent 2 days meeting with IB teachers, counselors, and administrators to guide and review their IB curriculum plans thus far. Some teachers have already attended training, and those who haven't will be attending training. Our next step is to actively involve our parent-student community in the process of making our school an IB school. Special thank you to Cindy Alba, Kelly Bowers, and Kate Runyon for helping us throughout our transition into becoming an IB school. Staff members are also preparing for the IB system as well. Last Wednesday, all sophomores were enrolled to take the PSAT with hardly anyone absent to take it. Many freshmen and juniors partook in it as well. Thank you to the Petrozzi Foundation for supplying our students with such amazing college preparation opportunities. The senior panoramic picture took place last Wednesday as well during the PSAT, and the Kids for Change Club at Granada is hosting Candy for Canned Goods, which is a Halloween carnival on October 31st. It's going to be located in Alumni Square. It's right before you enter the football games, and the purpose of this is to really enlighten the community on our local hunger issues here. It's not only something that happens nationally, but it's also something that happens right here in our own town. So the intent of the carnival is actually to collect cans for the Open Heart Kitchen, and the cans will be the price of the tickets. So if you plan on going, bring lots of cans so you can play lots of games. And on October 16th at 10:16, Granada participated in the Great California Shakeout statewide earthquake drill to raise awareness of earthquake safety. On behalf of the Livermore Area Youth Advisory Commission and Mayor Marchand, I would like to announce the screening of the movie Bully on October 29th at 6:30 in the Vine Cinema. This movie goes about the topic of bullying in a new perceivable way, and the event entails a community discussion after the screening. Please join myself and others passionate about this issue at the screening, and together we can create a safe and positive growing environment for our students. In athletics, girls golf took third in e-ball this year. Congratulations to our golfers, and thank you for the hard work. Boys cross country is currently in first place with e-ball, so keep up the good work, guys. And the Halloween football game on October 31st will be a TV30 broadcasted game, so stay tuned and be ready to watch it. Girls cross-country runner Megan McCandless won the e-ball tournament and broke the course record by 30 seconds. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Winter sports sign-ups start next week, and Granada cheerleaders are collaborating with Livermore High's cheerleaders for the halftime performance at the Livermore-Granada game. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina.
Good evening, President Runyon and Board of Trustees. Last week, each class performed at Homecoming Float Night on Thursday. The audience donated money to a charity of the class's choice as a form of praise instead of having judges. The event was extremely successful. We raised over $2,500 between all of the classes. The seniors raised $961 for the Taylor Family Foundation. The juniors raised $795 for Challenger Baseball. The sophomores raised $368 for Kids Against Hunger, and the freshmen raised $441 for Tri-Valley Haven. The charities will be presented with a check at this Friday's football game. We would like to thank the community for their support in helping us make this event one that benefits the entire Tri-Valley. As fall sports are coming to an end, the seniors will be recognized at their senior nights. Water polo senior night is on Thursday, October 23rd. Football, dance, shooting stars, cheer, and band senior nights will be this Friday, October 24th. The girls' tennis senior night is on November 4th, girls' volleyballs is on November 6th, and cross countries is on November 7th. Our marching band took first place at a competition in Del Mar, and percussion took third. The Link Crew Club will be hosting a Halloween carnival on Thursday for the freshmen. Our seniors are applying for colleges, and one of our Career Center counselors went around and made sure everyone knew what colleges they were going to and which ones they were applying to, giving us information. And then our other counselors had parent nights for each class. They gave information on how students could get help on upcoming events and on college readiness. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to hear all the wonderful things that our students are involved with, charities and sports and everything. That's just great. Thanks. And that brings us to employee associations. Mrs. Unger. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, President Runyon, board members, Superintendent Bowers. I just have a few things to bring up. One of them is that Kate and I are continuing our site visits, and it gives us a chance for our members to give us lots of input and ideas, which we will share with the appropriate departments when we talk with them. Kate mentioned at the last board meeting our new teacher surprise, which will be rolling out. We started rolling that out this week and in the next couple of weeks, so I don't want to share exactly what that is, but something cool. And I'm working with a representative from one of the financial companies that the Livermore School District has approved on one of their it's on the list. And he approached me about doing some education pieces with our members. I put out an interest email to find out who would be interested in finding out more about how STRS and Social Security work together in retirement. And I had a full session worth of people within 12 hours. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing if we can do some other partnerships with groups like his. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And that brings us to communications from the public. Communications from the public is a time for the public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on the agenda. The board may listen to the comment and ask staff clarifying questions, but they will neither discuss nor take action at this meeting on topics that are not on the agenda in accordance with the Brown Act. If you'd like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, now is the time to do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and each speaker speak once. So far I have one card. Rex Beach and Steve Goodman. Good to see you.
Good evening. My name is Rex Beach. I am co-president of the Livermore Granada Boosters, and the Boosters and I'm here with Steve Goodman. He was last year's president of the organization. The Boosters is a nonprofit organization started in 1949, and our main purpose of the organization is to raise scholarship money for Livermore and Granada High School scholar athletes. To date, we've raised approximately $250,000 in scholarship money since our inception. Tonight I'd like to highlight our 5th annual Race to the Flagpole that's coming up November 8th. It's held on Veterans Day weekend, November 8th. We recognize the veterans in the community. VFW will participate. We'll have a national anthem sung by one of the students from the schools. Last year we had 425 runners. This year we're expecting 600 runners. And the event is for all ages and abilities. We have a 5K, a 10K, half marathon, and then a 1 mile fun run. We start and finish the run in Independence Park. It winds its way through Sycamore Grove and Holdner Parks. And everybody who participates gets a T-shirt, a medal, and goodies after the race is finished. The race is our main fundraiser for the year. We award $12,000 a year in scholarships to Livermore and Granada High School seniors. It's presented at our annual banquet, which is the 3rd Monday of May. And we're continuing to strive to raise money to meet our current obligations and try and increase our scholarship funding in the future. It's not too late to register for the race. You can register at www.racetotheflagpole.org. And you can also register the same day of the race, but if you do that, we're not sure we can guarantee a shirt and a medal.
Okay, I get to poke a little fun, but so the race, there's a one mile fun run, a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. So, you can walk the 1 mile, I think. But I know that Board Member Dunlop has won his age division and I think set the course record for his age division. We have Superintendent Bowers and her husband have run several years, and I know that Mr. Van Schack has run as well. In fact, he won his age division, but I think he lost to a fourth grader overall. No comment there. But we would encourage you to sign up because it is a great event. We're going to have the Blue Star Moms there again, recognizing some things for the veterans. But it's a fun event. The weather's been good, and we would encourage you to come out and have a good time. And one other thing, the top school with the most registrants gets $250 from us. So it's a kind of an incentive. So if you have people or if you sign up, you can designate a school and hopefully put them over the top, and so everybody wins. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rogi, is there any correspondence tonight?
President Runyon, yes, there are. There's one. This is from Peggy Green, Technical Assistant of Project Lead. This is a review of the district's progress toward implementation of your board-approved LEA plan, alignment of curriculum and instruction with the new state-adopted Common Core standards, and the implementation of improvement strategies at Junction Avenue School. Livermore has made exceptional progress towards the focus on the 21st century initiatives, both in individual schools and the district as a whole. You have a dedicated staff that thinks deeply about your students, community, and the future of your organization. Sincerely, Peggy Green. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. And if the agenda I have in front of me is correct, we're on to information discussion items, and we're going to start with Mitchell.
So thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Cindy Alba, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, who's worked very closely with everybody involved in the next item, which is our Mitchell K-8 International Baccalaureate Program. And I shouldn't say almost, I should say the official title, candidate phase. So she's going to bring us up to date, as well as talk about next steps with Granada High School.
Okay. Thank you, President Runyon, trustees, Superintendent Bowers. It is a pleasure tonight to introduce this item about International Baccalaureate Program, and this seems to be the IB night. We started with the recognition and our Granada High student here sharing the update. If we think about this, it started in the fall of 2012 with Mitchell School, pulling together that task force to start exploring the idea of becoming an IB school. And since then, they've made just incredible progress. And I know Board President Runyon's been on the committee, and a number of people have been a part of being on the committee, but the real work has been done by the staff of this school who have just transformed learning, teaching and learning for students. So at this point, I'd like to ask Dr. Laura Limbo, the principal of the school, to come up. And I think Amy's going to be with her to share about the progress that they've made, what's happening at the school, and then I'll talk a little bit about Granada High School, which is also the next phase, which is very exciting.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's always fun to be back here. Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Bowers, and Board Trustees. It is my distinct pleasure to present an update on the progress we've made towards International Baccalaureate authorization at Joe Mitchell School. And joining me this evening is our IB coordinator, Amy Hosselt. And our goal will be to explain how the IB programs are different from traditional curriculum and share some of the changes we've noticed as a result of our IB candidacy, including one parent's perspective of her own daughter's experiences.
Good evening as well, President Runyon, Superintendent Bowers, and Board Trustees, and thank you again for having us back here tonight. It's been, we've done quite a lot of work in the last year since we were last here, so it's nice to be able to share what we've accomplished with you. So we are in our second year of candidacy at this time. Our teachers have collaborated within the school and with IB colleagues all over the world to bring the language and philosophy of the IB program into their classrooms. As we incorporate the program, the evidence is growing that this really is the right time for this program and the right program for Joe Mitchell. It's strengthening and supporting our implementation of Common Core, the next generation science standards, our reading and writing programs, and all that we do. And that includes our goal as a district of the 5 Cs, that we've really found that everything that we're asked to do for IB authorization is built on those goals of citizenship, collaboration, and communication, critical thinking, and creativity. So we are really seeing this as the right fit for Joe Mitchell. So briefly, I just want to review some of the basics, the philosophy of the program, and what we've implemented at Joe Mitchell. So the philosophy is that IB incorporates student learning that's best done when it's authentic and relevant to the real world, and transdisciplinary, which provides opportunities to incorporate local and global issues into the curriculum, which goes beyond the boundaries of traditional subject areas. The program allows schools to cover the standards within the framework of 6 key transdisciplinary themes or global contexts that encourage inquiry into values and beliefs, expression, communication, and our place in the global community. Within this framework, students also study content through a conceptual lens, and it helps students to make connections between subject areas and develop the critical thinking skills necessary for the depth of knowledge that we're really expecting of our students in the 21st century. So we're asking them to think in terms of change and responsibility and perspective and function. Teachers provide learning experiences that purposefully explore the concepts and also articulate the development of skills between grade levels. How are we teaching communication skills? How are we teaching research skills and social skills, self-management skills, and thinking skills? And ask them to teach those purposefully rather than just expect our students to know them. Teachers are working to provide purposeful opportunities for this, as well as action and service, that we ask our students to think about how they can contribute based on their learning. We want to compel them to act, both in their own lives and within the community, and that includes with a global vision, based on what they've experienced in their classrooms. Students have the opportunity to learn Spanish from TK through 8th grade, and all teaching and learning includes a multicultural perspective. The goal is that this global vision not only provides students with the ability to communicate, contribute, and thrive in a global community, but also to strengthen their own identity and their understanding of their own culture. So starting with our primary years program, which is the TK through 5th grade years, the structure of this program comes through our units of inquiry. These are in-depth investigations set in a problem-based or project-based setting, and they require a high level of student involvement. Students may work on their own, sometimes in groups, sometimes one-on-one with the teacher, to whatever gives them the best advantage in their learning. All of our units are based around these global contexts or themes to allow students to connect their learning to the real world. So here in these photos, our 2nd grade students are studying science and social science, standards of mapping, location, ecosystems, plants and animals, but all under a theme of sharing the planet. This helps students to again build those connections to the real world, and doing it in an inquiry-based setting really allows them to embrace a positive attitude towards their own learning by following their own inquiries, their own questions, which gives them those skills to contribute successfully in college and beyond. And then through our 6th through 8th grade program, which is the middle years program, inquiry continues to grow as we ask students to engage in rigorous subject matter while still thinking thematically, conceptually, and globally. In the MYP, all students study 8 subject areas, so the traditional 5, English, social science, science, math, and physical education. In the MYP, all students also study the visual and performing arts, design, and language acquisition, which for us is Spanish. While these studies are traditionally electives in our schools, the IB philosophy is that of educating the whole child. And this places equal value on all subject areas, so allowing students to develop their creativity and their critical thinking. Students here in our design classroom, which is actually on the top right-hand corner, learn problem-solving skills and approaches to design and modeling. As they inquire into, in this example, they are analyzing design to understand the various perspectives within the engineering community. So how different engineers, different types of engineers all contribute to solving one problem. And then in our science class, which is on the left side, students are learning about how advances in scientific knowledge allow societies to use and transform the materials they have to solve 21st century problems. So that's the work that we've been up to in the last year. I think we've laid a pretty solid foundation of our philosophy and language in our classrooms, and we're continuing to see the effects of that with our students as we work with them.
So as you can see from our timeline, we've been pretty busy even since the beginning of this school year, preparing for our final year as a candidate school. And I will tell you, as the community is becoming aware of Joe Mitchell and the opportunities offered by an IB program, our student enrollment has increased by more than 100 new students since last year. With student enrollment increasing, we've been able to add additional teachers to our staff. And for the first time, we've had to establish wait lists at some of our grade levels. With that increased student enrollment, we're also adding buildings and new opportunities for students. To meet the criteria for the IB authorization, we had to add new learning spaces to support the new curriculum offerings, especially in the middle school, which included the science laboratory that you saw pictures of for our middle years program, an art studio. You might recognize some of the art on the back wall from our art studio, and a design center specifically created to support STEM education. We're also very, very excited that our students will now have a pathway to continue the IB program now that Granada High School has become a candidate school for the diploma program. So as you can see, we had a few visitors in September. 2 of our IB consultants came and visited and told us that we were prepared to submit our application for both programs. And so on October 1st, we did just that. And so now the work continues as we prepare for those expected visits we suspect will happen in April. I think it's worth mentioning that there are incredible benefits of implementing both the PYP and the middle years program at Joe Mitchell School, especially because students are able to collaborate across grade levels and between the traditional elementary and middle school grades. Our TK8 model provides a nurturing and very supportive environment for all students. Here you see 7th grade students teaching 5th grade students cell biology through the use of models and microscopy. Students have collaborated across a variety of subject areas, including reading and physical ed. The IB has really driven increased collaboration amongst not only teachers, but also the students. It's really changed the way we teach, encouraging student inquiry and questioning through provocations at the start of every unit and through the unit as the inquiry grows. Engaging learning experiences ask students to work through problem-solving activities and build connections between classrooms around the campus. So here you'll see 4th grade students as they start their unit on exploration and colonization. They first had to plan their exploration route to their 1st grade reading buddies. Once there, they colonized the classroom environment. Then students in both grades were asked to reflect on that experience and tie what they've learned to their knowledge of early California and share thoughts on colonization from both perspectives. In the MYP, students in 6th through 8th grade study design. At Mitchell, this subject area has been pursued through the Project Lead the Way program, a national leader in STEM education. Students this year are studying design and modeling, including the use of 3D modeling software. We're hoping to add a 3D printer really soon. Students will also study a green architecture unit this year, and as they do that, develop the problem-solving skills necessary to tackle the pressing issues of our 21st century. And we're also introducing Project Lead the Way STEM units to our 1st through 5th grade students, called the Launch Program. Students in the PYP are being introduced to the next generation science standards through integrated problem-based study, utilizing iPads and other tools to tackle the curriculum. For example, our 5th grade students will be studying automation and robotics, using robotics kits to design and develop solutions with real-world application. How has the IB changed our school community? There's been a great impact on the conversations that students are having with each other with their teachers, and also at home with their families. We are asking students to consider their place in the global community and to reflect on their own identity and culture. And we would like that our students begin to understand what it means to be an active citizen. So we hold events designed to compel students to act in response to issues that they see as significant in their own communities and around the world. But these are just some of the observations that we've noticed as staff and administration. At this time, I'd like you to hear another perspective, a voice from our school community. At this time, I'd like to invite Vicki Wilson to the podium.
Welcome. Good evening. Good evening, President Runyon, Superintendent Bowers, and members of the board. As the parent of 3 children at Joe Mitchell School, I wanted to offer my profound gratitude for your support during the launch of the International Baccalaureate program. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Laura Limbo, Amy Hasselt, and the amazing teachers at Joe Mitchell for their endless dedication in creating a school that has really been exceptional. In the 2 years that we've been a family at Joe Mitchell, I've witnessed the groundswell of enthusiasm for the IB program. I see this enthusiasm among legacy families at Mitchell and among the teachers and all of our new families who have sought out Mitchell as a destination school. With the character education that comes with an IB program, I've witnessed firsthand the IB character traits in my children as now they have now access to a world-class education. My 3rd grader mentioned that one of the aspects that she enjoys about being part of the IB program is the fact that she knows that she's part of a greater global community. My 1st grader mentioned that what she likes about Mitchell is learning about ways in which they can better share the planet at 1st grade. And with the majority of last year's 5th grade class opting to stay for middle school, my 6th grader and her peers, what I know about them is that they're really, I see them growing into naturally inquisitive, creative, and resourceful leaders who will make a positive impact on the world around them. So, in conclusion, thank you again for your vision and your investment into this school.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicki. So on behalf of the students, staff, and our school community, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for your continued support for our IB programs. I have to tell you, it really has been a very rewarding experience to be able to work with such a staff and school community through this process. And I would like to invite you to come and visit our school. In January, we will again provide our school community with an informational evening event for both our current and prospective families. And after this event, I do anticipate that we will continue to grow again next year. So thank you for your continued support.
Thank you very much.
Oops, sorry. There you go.
And with all that excitement at Mitchell K-8, we are just thrilled that Granada High School has been moving forward with their application, and they are now have submitted so that they can be a candidate school for International and Baccalaureate Diploma Program. And so our goal was to develop this pathway, K-12, and again, we applaud Mitchell K-8 for taking on the K-8 piece, and we applaud Granada for taking and seeing the excitement and the benefit for students to do the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. So last week, I think we heard about that the consultant was at Granada to come meet with them about the process, and it was pretty exciting to hear him talk about being impressed with Mitchell K-8 for taking on both the primary year's application and the middle year's program. And I think they know what a benefit this is for our students, and so really I do have to really applaud the whole staff, but Laura and Amy, for that application process. So it was nice to have it validated from this person who was at Granada High for the IB program, you know, talking about the high school, but just being really kind of a little taken aback that they were doing both. So the Granada process has started, and hopefully it all goes well, which we know it will. The freshman class will be the first class that will be eligible for the IB diploma, and that means that they'll be able to enroll in IB courses, such as they'll be taking a second language, social studies, science, mathematics, and the arts. Now, even though it's the IB diploma programs for juniors and seniors, all the courses will be open to any student who wants to take the courses. It's not just for students who are actually pursuing the IB program. So the teachers right now who will be teaching in the IB program at Granada High School are working on developing they're going to be going to training. Some have already attended training. I think you're approving some of the out-of-state training this evening. And again, it's out-of-state training because it is an international program, and actually the trainings take place all over the world, for us all over the United States, and we try to do as many close to home as we can because that's what our teachers prefer. But they all will be trained in the courses that they'll be teaching, and then they'll be developing their course outlines, which are all part of the application that will be submitted to IB. Once all that process, they go through that whole application process, they have the site visit. The goal is to have the diploma program in place for the start of 2016-17 school year. So once again, we are thrilled and appreciate the board's support for developing this program, TK through 12. And I have a lovely PowerPoint I'm looking at. I'm sorry that you didn't. I just realized that. Yeah.
All right.
So, any questions?
No, I was going to open it up. Did any member of the audience want to comment? Okay, any board member want to comment? Or ask a question?
Well, I'm a little jealous that I can't partake in the IB process, so I just think it's a really great thing to be bringing into our Livermore schools, and it's such a new kind of concept that I really do appreciate and I think is very valuable to our students.
Thank you. Dr. Dunn?
Just again, thank all of the people who have put all the effort in to do this, because it's not always that easy to modify the current programs and classroom teaching to accommodate something that's this new. So congratulations on doing an exceptional job, and just keep up the good work.
Mrs. White?
I think you say that that all the students at Granada will be able to take IB classes, but there will be certainly a few designated ones that must be taken by IB students, and then take electives otherwise or whatever.
So the students who are, it's a diploma program, so students who are going for the IB diploma obviously can take the classes. But in other words, students, even if they're not going for the IB diploma, but they just prefer to take one of the courses that they want to be challenged, it's an area of interest, for whatever reason they just want to take it, they will also be open to all students.
My question is the reverse, though. Does the IB program fill up a whole schedule, or will the IB students have designated courses that they must take and can take anything else to fill?
There are certain courses that they have to take, but one of the things that we were finding in our meeting the other day is because of the trimester system, because it does allow students to take more courses, that there will be some flexibility. So right now they're looking at that, and in fact they'll be working out some mock schedules for students so that they can kind of see what that would look like.
And I was also concerned, is not the right word, but aware that these students who finish from Mitchell and go on to the high school will have had 8 years of Spanish. So are there capabilities? I know the dual immersion program from Junction is coming up with their plan and their scope and whatever. It seems to me that these students might have similar skills.
Right. So similar to what will be the next in that pathway for the dual immersion program is the high school. The students will be able to take a Spanish assessment to see what they would test into. We're thinking that for the dual immersion program, and possibly and probably the IB program, students would be ready for Spanish 3, the third level of Spanish. It could be more than that, but that's what, in our conversations, yes. But there will be a way for them to be able to move forward.
You're expecting like a skill level test to, and for placement.
Right, and we've been working with the teachers at Granada.
Thank you.
Well, I'm very excited. You know, it's been a dream of mine for a long time since I drove my son to Tracy High to go to their international baccalaureate program. I never imagined that we'd be able to do it starting in TK. So I think that's been the greatest part, that I had a small dream to get the program that was in Tracy High School here for our high school students, and the staff dreamed a bigger dream and has really done it. And if you were in the meeting last week with the consultant at Granada, he really was blown away that the staff had the audacity to go for both programs simultaneously and has pulled it off. So we're just really proud, and I think we're also kind of lucky. The timing has worked out so nicely because so much of what we're doing in International Baccalaureate is what would have needed to be done for Common Core, and it's an older structure that's better understood and well accepted, and I think that's made it a lot easier that those things arrived with the same timing. And so I'm really pleased, and we're just tickled pink with what you've been able to do with what we've asked you to. So thanks a lot. And that brings us to the next item, the charter school update.
Thank you, Madam President. I will ask Mr. Chris Van Schack, our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, who also serves as the liaison for oversight with the Livermore Valley Charter School K-8, to introduce this item and give you an update. This is a regular report that the board has requested regarding the oversight and meeting of all of the requirements, both required and, well, requirements are required, sorry, requirements and also recommendations.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowers. It is my pleasure to provide you this evening with the first of 3 yearly reports regarding the oversight of the charter school. I have a brief report this evening, which I know is of no disappointment to anybody, but I think, moreover, it's an indication of the improved relationship that we've developed with the charter school, that we can provide a report that's both brief and positive in nature. Just as a little bit of background, just a reminder to you, about 15 months ago, in July of 2013, we began in our role as the oversight agency. Our legal counsel, along with district staff, created a checklist that the charter school could use each year to ensure that they were meeting not just the intent of the law, but the MOU that was created, as well as recommendations from folks who are involved in best practices. This is provided to the TVLC CEO and their principal, and we went over that at length. And this checklist is divided actually into 7 areas to make things a little bit less confusing. General requirements has to do with basic charter school setup, and then we've created fiscal and business operations, an educational program, facilities, governance, personnel, and student services. And so in each of these areas, we have required elements, which are either required by law or required by the MOU that we've created. And we also have recommendations that are suggestions that we've made, and we'll call them suggestions with quotes, strong suggestions we've made based upon what we believe to be best ways to run schools. And so here's a chart that breaks down those 2 areas, required areas and recommended areas. And you can see down at the bottom there that there are 70 required areas, and the Livermore Valley Charter School is compliant in 68 of the 70 areas. There were 200 recommendations, and of those 200 recommendations, they were compliant in 185 of those. And so there's a breakdown. I'm going to go over each area a little bit more specifically, but also very quickly, because I think it's important to note that, again, there are only 2 areas that we sat down and said, these are things you must do, that we found them to be non-compliant, and I'll discuss each of those. So once again, the first area was general requirements. There were 18 required items. They have met the requirements in 17 of the 18. The one area that they have not been compliant to, as of yet, is they're supposed to provide us with an update each year of students who either expelled or leave the school. We still have responsibility for in-district students. we are still required to make sure that they attend school regularly. So when they leave our school, or if they were never even in our school, they went straight to the charter school. Once they leave the charter school, we're expected to get a report on them so we can follow up and make sure that they're enrolled in some school. The second area of the area of fiscal business operations, they have met all of the requirements in this area. We still recommend that they're diligent in areas of allocation of resources as is necessary for all schools. We want to ensure that students at the charter school get all of the instructional materials that they need in order to be successful. And so Mrs. Susan Kinder is very diligent in her oversight of the budget. They provide us with documents on a basis that's a timeline that's set forth by the state. In the area of educational program, they've met all 12 of their requirements. Again, we continue to ask them to focus on students who have exceptional needs. That includes students who their strength in academics require enrichment activities. We also have asked them to be diligent in the development of a professional development plan that will provide teachers with the training that they need to address the new Common Core. In the area of facilities, there were only 3 requirements. They've met all 3 of these requirements. There are still continued concerns from the parents of LVCS about playground space, particularly fields. There are plans in place to develop an area between the current charter school and the soon-to-be developed high school for fields, and so we're hoping that that helps them with some of the concerns parents have expressed over physical education. In the area of governance, there are 18 items required. 17 of the 18 have met. We also had 40 recommendations in this area, and this is one area that we've had some concerns. They've met just 31 of the 40 recommendations. We're suggesting to them that their operations not just be transparent, but be more clear to the public. At the different levels, whether it's the site leadership or the corporate leadership or the board, it isn't always clear to the parents, the community, who's responsible for making decisions. And so we've asked them to the extent that they can, and again, they're not required to, but to the extent they can, to be more transparent and more open with how decisions are made in their organization. And so once again, this is something that we've been talking about for a couple of years. It's not a requirement. The state doesn't mandate it, but we believe that from the feedback we received from staff and from their parent group, that it would benefit them if they understood where the decisions were being made. We also asked them, again, as I suggested, that they maintain, to the extent that they can, transparency in operations. In terms of personnel, they've met all 4 of the requirements that we set forth. We will continue to monitor their compliance in the areas of TB testing and mandated reporting. We do ask they develop a professional growth plan that extends to all employees, not just the teachers. And the final area is in student services. There was only 1 requirement, and they did meet this requirement. And so we're happy to say that, again, 68 of the 70 areas that were required were met. In the 2 other areas, we have action plans in place, and we're confident that by the winter report, they'll have met their requirement in those 2 areas as well. As I mentioned, compliant in 68 of the 70 required items, the majority of those that we recommended, 185 of the 200 items. I think it's fair to say that a once contentious relationship between the charter school and the district has thawed significantly. We are now having conversations about professional development opportunities in which we would include their teachers. I think I'm confident that when I ask them for information, I get it in a timely manner with little to no resistance. Again, I think the important thing is we set forth, the board set forth a very clear MOU. Here are our expectations, and they have done what they need to do to meet those expectations. As we move forward, I do attend their biweekly meetings. I make site visits about every other month to take a look at their school site, look at facilities, things like that. We do provide oversight reports to the board 3 times a year, so fall, winter, and spring, and we will continue that unless the board directs me otherwise. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that board members or public may have.
Okay, does anyone from the public want to comment? Board member? Dr. Dunlop.
I actually was impressed when I read through this, Mr. Van Schack, because we had a lot of requirements for them, and I think they've done an excellent job in basically meeting those requirements as we set forward, and there are a few remaining, but I think the overall scope of meeting what we expected shows very good cooperation and compliance.
I agree. I agree with the points that you made as well, though, that there seem to still be questions about who to call when you question the actions of an administrator, you question the finances of that entity. I got a call at my home with someone who was upset about an action that one of their principals took, and spent a lot of time explaining that we're not the place to come for that, that if you're unhappy with something that goes on in the charter school, you start with their staff, and then if you're not happy, you go to their board. And I'm not really sure, where that trail ends, but we're not responsible for the operations, and oversight doesn't mean that we tell them how to run their school. And so I think that report is really important because it covers the responsibilities that we have, which is to make sure the elements are there, not responsible for how they are implementing them. So thank you very much for that. And if there's no one that wanted to comment, we're going to move on to the general fund budget update.
Thank you, Madam President. I will ask Mrs. Susan Kinder to introduce this item. She is our Chief Business Official, and she always provides regular updates to the board on this very important item, which is our budget. And increasingly, the news has been better in the last few years.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers. So tonight we bring you a budget update from, since our last update, which was the 45-day revise, and then the unaudited actuals. Am I way too loud? So first, this is the chart that you always get that shows the 45-day revise on the left and the current budget on the right. In the middle are the adjustments. One thing I wanted to point out on this chart that doesn't impact the ending fund balance, but it's a very large change. If you notice in the local control funding formula, there's a positive in the unrestricted and a negative in the restricted of $3,220,325, and that was something that was advised by the county to. They no longer want us to do a transfer of the local control funding formula to our special ed program, which we've always done. So the offset to that is the contribution to the restricted side. So there's an offset. So it's going to be kind of weird when we try to look at special ed over the history of it, because it's going to look like all of a sudden our encroachment went sky high. But it's really because we're not to put the LCFF, which is unrestricted, into the restricted side, which is a little different, but it does not impact the ending fund balance.
So where do we see it?
So
normally we just pay them out of the general fund. Isn't the LCFF the general fund?
The LCFF is the unrestricted, and special ed is on the restricted side. So there's a contribution from the unrestricted to the restricted.
But we've always done that. So how is this different?
But we've also, in the past, we've used to put revenue limit. We used to calculate the special ed revenue limit portion that those students earn and put that in there so that our contribution wouldn't be as high.
So their revenue limit money went to restricted?
To the unrestricted now. It's all unrestricted.
So I think
I can see that it's a sub-zero game, but I can see that we're playing games too.
Yeah, it's a little different.
I think the way that I would like to see it handled would be then to have a note, as long as we're carrying those back, for the next 3 years, have a note with the comparison and say, if it had been under the old way, it would look like this, but because they've asked us to change it, now it looks like this.
Yeah.
So that we can recognize.
We can still calculate what it would be. It's a little more difficult
comment
now.
section. Yeah.
So.
Anyhow.
Was that a requirement or just please do it?
It's according to the county is what the state is requiring. So this will be our first year like that.
So just in maybe more layman's terms, basically what happens is every student, regardless of their status, generates a certain amount of money, and then through LCFF, which was always the case under the base revenue limit as well. But in the past, that money has been put into the special ed. Now we have to keep it there and then show that we're allocating it voluntarily toward special education, rather than it's not just a gift, right?
Right.
And so the only people, not people, the only students who are officially recognized through the LCFF are the ones that fall into the supplemental categories and that generate the additional money.
But we do get.
But even the supplemental is unrestricted.
Yes. But we, in the special ed fund, we have the transfer from the general fund now. But we also have the money that we get from the state and or the feds.
Correct.
To serve those students.
There are still specific funds from the state and federal and SELPA that are restricted for special ed, and those show up on the restricted side.
They all go in the restricted special ed.
Yes. It's only the LCFF that has to be on the unrestricted.
So it's increasing the appearance of encroachment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But it makes the encroachment look substantially larger than it would have in the past with the same expenditures. Exactly. And that to me, that's when you put a note in that explains it so that people can back compare and know. And you do the calculations both ways and say if we had done it the old way, this would be the number, because then it's helpful when you're making comparisons.
Exactly.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Sure. Okay, so the next slide is, so our changes. So our unaudited beginning balance, this is the beginning balance, this was the ending balance of our unaudited actuals, are now our beginning balance for this year. And so that includes restricted funds that carried over from last year and assigned funds, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then our revenues are projected at a little over $108 million, expenditures at $111,656,710, and transfers in of $2.1 million, leaving us with the ending fund balance of $3,582,681. And so there's another, there we go. So of that ending balance, $200,000 is basically revolving cash and our warehouse inventory, and leaving a reserve of $3.3 million, almost $3.4 million, which is a little bit over 3%. So the change is quite substantial. It's about $2 million, and so we'll talk about some of that is carryover from prior year. So in the unrestricted, when we did the unaudited actuals, there was $331,807 that was assigned, and that's encumbrances for items that were purchased but not yet paid for. And then there was $1,164,545 that was restricted, and those are grants that we've received funds, but they were not spent in the 13-14 years, so they carry over, but they are specifically meant for those grants, and so they carry over into that fund balance, and then we put it back into the expenditures, and so that's why our expenditures go up. So the real change from the 45-day revise is really $587,275. That's the real change from September. The rest is prior year stuff. So what makes that change? Revenues increased $1.2 million approximately, and expenses increased almost $1.8 million. And so in revenues, we are transferring over $1,250,000 from Fund 20, and this was a transfer that we decided to do to cover our competitive compensation adjustment of 2.58% in anticipation of our LCFF increasing in future years. So we know that we don't want to use one-time money for an ongoing expense, but we do know that our LCFF will be going up. And then we had an adjustment of $44,846 down in our parcel tax revenue, and that was basically our senior exemptions that came in. And then on the expenditure side, as you know, you approved a 2.58% competitive compensation adjustment, and that was about a little over $2 million. There was some additional staffing of $302,291. We had indirect costs that we charged to our grants that came over, our carryover, and that's 38,294. That's a positive to our ending fund balance. And then there's a reduced contribution to our Tri-Valley ROP program. This is something that has not actually been approved by them, but they are taking it to their board on Monday. So in anticipation of that, we have already put it in our budget. And so that's what makes the difference. And so we do still have our little over 3% reserve, so we're good there. And so our next steps are that we always look at our staffing and make sure that we are on track because that's 90% of our budget. And we will continue to monitor our state and federal grants and adjust as needed. And then first interim will end on October 31st, and we will be presenting that report in the first meeting in December. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any member of the public with a question? Members of the board? Dr. Dunlop.
Okay, well, anytime they throw everything up in the air and we wait for it all to come down, it gets confusing. And so they're changing the rules about how we're doing some of this money, where we put it, and so on. But basically, we're moving ahead in terms of the ending fund balance. Is that correct? We're making progress over where we were a year ago in terms of deficit spending.
We're still deficit.
Well, we're still deficit spending because we did just do that raise, but we are doing better, and we're anticipating that we're going to be doing much better as we look at LCFF in the future.
Okay, but ultimately, you know, we had issues about actually having a real reserve rather than the 3% set aside. And so there are some of those issues that we still have not corrected from, you know, the big downturn. And plus the actual revenues are not quite back up to where they were at the downturn. So
right.
It's looking positive and good, but there's still a number of items that people really should take care of. And you know, one is to actually end up with a real reserve instead of a thing that's labeled as reserve, which we have no ability to tap into. Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Brody?
Got any hints on what legislation's being coming up that's going to affect our budget in the next 6 months? Revenues are up.
I
haven't seen anything, but I thought maybe you would.
We sure hope that we see some better things in January as revenues are coming up, and the governor is promising that he's going to pay off that wall of debt. They owe us quite a bit in mandated cost money, so it'd be nice if they decided to kick some of that down to us.
Well,
like almost $13 million.
And hopefully now the time to ask while the state's running ahead of projected revenue in the tax receipts. So
one other piece of legislation that was put into effect is that the school districts would not be able to keep more than double their reserve, which would be 6%. And I know this board, as well as the entire California School Board Association and many others, are trying to challenge that because it is admirable that the governor would want to have a rainy day reserve fund for the state, but usually he hasn't had to do that because he has taken from ours. And we would like to, we've always found out that relying on the local folks has been our most secure and stable funding, and it's a little more unreliable. The other reason why there ended up being, even with the competitive compensation adjustment, we would not have been deficit spending with that except for the fact that the STRS piece came in, an additional, which were, you know, we are obligated. We didn't have a choice to increase the increments for that. And that was, again, kind of a curveball that came from the state. So
and came late.
Mm-hmm. Right, after we pretty much set things in motion. So we're always conscious that we need to rebuild a reserve, but right now there is a lot of controversy over how much that could be.
I did have a question, if we can go back to this page. I wanted to look under expenditures, item 4. We had in the 45-day revision $3.5 million in books and supplies, and now that's gone to 6.8. Can you help me understand that?
So a majority of that would be from carryover.
Okay.
So as the carryover came in on the restricted side, because remember we put the almost 1.2 million in restricted carryover back into the expenditures for them to spend.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you for that. And if there are no further questions, we're going to move on to consent. Did anyone want to pull an item off consent? All right, I'll take a motion on the consent calendar then.
Madam President, I move that we approve consent items A through I.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Rogie, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. White.
Aye.
Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
Myself, aye, and President Runyon.
Aye. And we have two resolutions, one recognizing Red Ribbon Week and the other authorization to sell surplus equipment. Can we consider those together?
I move that we adopt Resolution 10 and 11, 14, 15.
I'll second it.
Mr. Rogie, can you call the roll?
Yes. President Runyon.
Aye.
Mrs. White.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
All right, and that brings us to board member reports and requests. And Mrs. White, would you like to start?
Sure. I visited East Avenue last week, and I visited some math classes, a science class, and an English class. And you could hear Common Core coming out of everybody's mouth. They were asking the right questions, and the math classes were coming up with other ways to solve the same problem. And some people found it clearer one way than the other way. It was good to see that the professional development is having a change in the classroom. But at East Avenue, they were one of the first people to have diversity walls, if you recall, with their tiles and their trust. Well, this time I noticed that they have really embraced their character counts. Because as I left the office, I went down Trustworthy Way, and I turned right onto Respect Avenue to go to my first class. And then I went on Caring Way to the second class and cut over on Citizenship Lane to Fairness Boulevard. So these are signs that are all up, and you can't help but be aware that they're thinking that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dunlop?
Yes, I attended the Livermore Valley Education Foundation board meeting last night, and they again were reporting on the Walk for Education. And of course, that was a very fun event, and I was pleased with how many people were there, and everyone at the board meeting were commenting on that. And also the income from that is very similar to last year, which was a very good year. So that was a very successful event, and we thank all of the people that helped with that, the Swim Academy and so on that's done that for us for years, and it was a very nice event.
So the question that keeps coming in is, who won? Did I miss that?
They hadn't finished all of the details yet, so we don't know who won, but it's probably you.
How do you keep... no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say a corny joke, but Mr. Rogie.
I really don't have anything to report. It's been a busy week personally, so I've been, unfortunately, not hitting the rounds.
All right, and we already talked about the IB meeting at Granada, so I don't think we'll belabor that. Go right to the superintendent's report.
So thank you. I just wanted to report that we did have a drill for the Great California Shakeout on Thursday, October 16th, and our emergency operations group met in here, and all of our principals were present to observe in action, and it was a really good drill because then, since the principals were not present at the school sites had to function in an emergency crisis without their principal, and they all did extremely well. This year, for the first time, we included the ROP and the Arroyo Mocho site, as well as the Livermore Valley Charter Prep School, which is located on our Portola site, because that was a recommendation from last year. And we also used the time to remind everyone to have an emergency plan with their family in case of crises. I will say that in the past week or so, I've had some crises in our family, and I will like to thank everybody for all of their support. And then I would like to end with, go watch the Giants game.
All right.
Is this still going on? Okay.
So we're going to adjourn at 8:22. Thank you very much.